What is up, everybody? Good morning and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the kind of World of Warcraft section of the channel. We're going to do a little Rookery run here. I was just kind of feeling ambitious this evening, so this is actually recorded in the evening, even though I said good morning. But I haven't done a 13 this season yet, and I was just like, you know what? Let's just hop in a group with some pugs. Let's list my own key. We'll see what's going on and see if we can make something work. So, yeah, this run ends up going pretty good. We time it with some time to spare as well, even though we have a couple of mistakes early. This pack is going to be pretty sketchy here. We do have we kind of have a lack of kicks, I guess. We have some good stops, but I think a couple casts end up getting off, and it's just not great. So that's okay. But we're popping absolutely everything here. We're lusting. We're using Incarn. I pop Nature's Vigil to try and help heal a little bit, and we're just doing absolute crap tons of damage here, blasting this pull. I'm not entirely sure what happens to the Hunter there, so that's a little bit awkward. And I'm initially like, I don't know about this key. One death like on first pull is, I don't know, it kind of sketches me out, but it's all good. Making sure that we are, as soon as we get to this landing spot over here, we're going to rebuff. Make sure that Hunter has that versatility, and then we'll go back into bear form. And I see the Pat over on this right-hand side here is in a little bit of a better position. I know my Incarn is coming up pretty soon, so I think any kind of 2-minute cooldowns are going to be coming up shortly. So we should have some decent damage for this. And I like to take this room, usually like 1 to 2 packs at a time. If you triple pull, it can get really dicey, especially on a 13. So definitely don't do that if you're thinking about doing this. I know I'm going to be pretty safe on these pulls, so I'm really just trying to pop everything I can to do more damage, make sure that everyone else is going to stay alive, and kind of go from there. Kick on cooldown, that sort of stuff. This monk absolutely MVPs it up here too. He keeps everyone alive, does a phenomenal job. So yeah. We get through this second pull without a whole lot of casualties. You can see people's health bars are rubber banding a bit, but that is okay. And I realize that we do have a rogue here, so I like to try and let rogues re-stealth between pulls, so that's why I kind of don't chain as much as you might see other tanks do that, but it's okay. I figure he's outlaw, so he can actually stay out of stealth a little bit more. But if you have like a Sin Rogue or something like that, they get tremendous value out of being able to Garrote out of stealth, so make sure that you're keeping that in mind. Their damage will go up like crazy if you let them do that. So again, we're just chaining into this other pull, taking the rest of this side pretty slowly because I did chain into this. I'm just like, I'll let him stealth. This is going down pretty quick. We'll get him back into stealth and do some more damage. We should be fine on time as long as we don't really mess up this key, and there isn't a whole lot to mess up on this key a lot. So, I mean, as long as you're just kicking on cooldown, stopping a couple of these lightning bolts, making sure that 2 of them aren't going off at the same time, should be okay. So, moving right along. And we might skip ahead a little bit once we kind of finish this room, just because this first boss is going to take a pretty long time. But yeah, I like to fully clear this room. I think there are some people that do routes where you don't fully clear this room. Just especially if you're pugging. If you have a coordinated group, that's fine, more than fine. But for me, pugging in most of my keys, I like to clear this full room and just make sure that our whole team has as much space as humanly possible. I see the Pat go too far on the right-hand side, so I decide that we're going to double pull here. This mob is in a much better space, and then we'll have a nice double pull to finish it off. We'll do 2 double pulls, and then we'll chill. There are also 3 thunders in this pull, so definitely make sure that if you have a lot of kicks, a lot of stops, that you're using those. As you can see, 2 casts kind of go off, and the priest gets absolutely demolished there. Not a whole lot he can do, getting 100 to 0'd in about, less than a second. It is what it is. So, yeah, I guess I could have Ursuled and Typhooned and gotten him into a pixel stack or something like that, but that's okay. Mistakes happen. It is what it is, and I'm not ever going to claim that these runs are perfect. I know people watch a lot of like Yoda and a lot of these professional MDI players and that sort of thing, so I am not them, but this will be a good framework, things to keep in mind, and we'll go through at least my experience of pugging keys, and 13s are pretty high for this season still. So a lot of people are still struggling with 10s and trying to get all those done, making sure you're getting your portals and all that sort of thing. So yeah, don't have any big cooldowns here on this pull, so I pull kind of in a little bit of a sketchy way, but I do have a renewal, so I'm able to top myself off, stay a little bit safer. And yeah, this will be the last pull that goes down. Nothing too crazy. Again, we're keeping interrupts on these Thunderers, making sure that we have those targeted at all times. And then the rest of them will just die. Our DPS are pumping here. And yeah, so let's get right into the boss here. We'll skip ahead just a touch. So we pull the boss here. This is going to take a while. We don't have Bloodlust. I like that our priest pings where to stack, so we get all these pools stacked in the same spot. And I like to kind of get right at the edge of each pool and then drop the next one, obviously moving forward as needed to avoid the beam. But I don't want to stand too far ahead of this monk. As you can see, he's standing right on top of me. I don't want to get too far in front of him and drop a pool in his path and end up sniping him. So that is something that I try and do on this boss. Don't move too far ahead, because sometimes you can place pools in people's paths and then it's just a bad time. And then for these circles right here, you definitely want to, the ones that get placed on everybody, I like to move a little bit, just televise my direction, and then plant. You don't need to move too much. I see people try and over-facilitate, but move a little bit, plant, and make sure that I am only moving if I see everyone else has already kind of chosen their general direction. So that's how I like to do that. And again, we're going to go through this rotating phase. We see it's moving to the left, so I'll get right on the edge of these. I actually tank one of those, I think, but again, this hunter is standing in melee, drops a pool in front of me, so I have to move a little more. But we get really nice and clean here. You can see we drop them all on a line. We move just past them, drop them all on a line again, and we're sitting in a real good spot. So yeah, rest of the boss, rinse and repeat, not too shabby. So we'll take him out here in the next few seconds here, and then we'll go down to what is, in my opinion, the most annoying part of the dungeon, but not so for bear tanks. So down goes Kyrios, and we can hop down here. If you jump down too early right there, sometimes you can get knocked back up. I misclick my little feather here, but make sure you use your feather. Free one of these griffins. You get a 5-minute buff. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but any damage is helpful damage. So it does some extra lightning stuff on the edge. Our priest already mind soothes, so I don't even think you need mind soothes to skip these guys, but skip everything on that right-hand side here. I pop Barkskin, and I'm glad he cocoons me, because this is just like the messiest pull I've ever done in my entire life. But hey, you know, we persevere. And this suction thing is just the most annoying thing in the world. I know there's a lot of damage going off, so I just kind of roar and try and get an interrupt, stop anything that I can. I don't know. It's kind of just a panic at this point, trying to get this pull together. But really just focusing these oracles, making sure that you're getting kicks, and then if as a tank you're making sure that that stack on those, so you have 5 stacks, 6 stacks, that reduces healing taken on the right hand side of my screen there. Make sure you don't get too many of those. I actually end up limit testing kind of at the end of this key, and I can take, if I'm only tanking 2 mobs, I can tank 20 of those stacks. It's really not that hard. So these crushers are the ones that apply it, and you just want to be aware of that in case it's pretty rough on prop paladin. I think I've had a lot more issue with this key on prop paladin than anything else, but on druid it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot. So this pull I like to do by itself, because there's 2 crushers, and pulling these diffusers with anything, that suction thing, is just the worst ever. So only doing this 3-pack, more than fine. We kind of blew cooldowns on that last pack as well, so people don't have a lot of damage in their back pocket, presumably. We'll just take this one nice and slow, make sure that we live, and we have a ton of time. We're at 50% count, 1 boss already down. Lust is coming up in a second, so we'll have that for the second boss. We are sitting in a good spot. So all we got to do is play this key safe, and we should be in good shape to time it. As soon as that diffuser goes down, you technically could drag these crushers down if they, if you really need to, but there's really no need to. As you can see, I had 11 stacks there, still at full HP, not having any trouble keeping me up. That healer is doing God's work over here. And we'll pop our bomb suit, because I don't pop any defensives on pull. Also, the bomb suit does some good damage, so that sort of thing. Pop in Nature's Vigil, just because some of these void bolts are going to go off. I've already used my kick. I know my kick's down, so I just want to help out any healing that I can. And the same mechanics apply. As you can see, I'm at 16 stacks. These crushers are absolutely hitting me, but it's not a problem. I'm still able to stay at 100% health. 20 stacks here. I think 20 stacks is about 40% healing, so just be mindful, but you cannot go above 20 stacks. As you can see, it was getting reapplied, and it's not a big deal. So take out that pull relatively easily, and I ping to kill the left-hand diffuser. You want to focus one of these because they do a ton of damage, and there can be some pretty bad overlaps with the single target mechanics. I think we do actually lose our priest here. So yeah, that single target mechanic, you just run out and the priest drops a little bit low because of the AoE damage that these diffusers do, and then he just gets clapped. I opt to use the B-res here. I just want to save some time. I know these packs are going to take a while, and just having that priest extra damage will save us more time than the B-res is worth, in my opinion. So good stuff here. I wish I had Nature's Vigil for this pack, but we almost have one of these diffusers dead, and once one of them dies, the rest of this this little gauntlet becomes significantly easier. So we'll skip ahead. We'll take those guys out pretty easily. Run on down here. I call for Lust with a little smiley face because I'm a nice guy. And we'll make sure that we have aggro on all of these civilians. We'll pop down here, make sure the boss is on us, drag him over to the civilians, and we will start freaking blasting. So our DPS open kind of crazy here. Make sure to drop all those puddles in one spot. And then, unfortunately, we get a bad pass here. You want to take this this corruption. So I'm stacking on that person that has the debuff. As you can see, I now have that purple arrow over my head. I am taking the brunt of that damage. You don't want to ever take 2 stacks of that. So usually it goes on a DPS. You pass it to the tank, DPS, tank again. That's kind of how you're supposed to do it. Make sure that you are not taking that debuff, making sure that you're not taking that dot when you have a stack of that thing that you get when you've already had the dot. So Chaotic Corruption comes out again. It goes right on this monk, so I go ahead and I stack on top of him, trying to make sure that I get it the next round. Pop Bark Skin, because I will take a little bit of damage here, and then we will pass it to the Shadow Priest, and I will get away from him, making sure that I'm not the closest person to him, so that it will pass to the Rogue here, and easy peasy. That's really all you need to do. I see a lot of people do that mechanic wrong, and it sometimes is a lot to keep track of, especially when the boss is doing this suction thing. He's jumping around, all this stuff. And range DPS go absolutely crazy on this fight. Melee uptime is really low, so I would definitely recommend not doing this dungeon with 3 melee DPS or something like that if you can avoid it. This dungeon has a ton of downtime for melee DPS, so if you can avoid that, definitely do avoid it. Yeah, so we are just still kind of cooking through this. This boss is pretty close to dying. Our Shadow Priest and our Hunter are still getting a lot of damage on that boss, even though me and the Rogue have to step away a bit. And I try and drag him a little bit closer over here, stacking on this this monk once again, or the Rogue, I should say, making sure that I take that dot. We'll pass it to the Priest, making sure that I'm not the closest one of the Priest. He runs it over to the monk, or the Hunter, I should say. Hunter drops pretty low here, about 2% HP left on him. But the boss should go down here, and we are in the home stretch. It's right here that I'm wondering. I haven't done this dungeon enough to know, on a higher difficulty, to know how much time is enough to finish this key, because I know some of these pulls can take a good amount of time. But we have pretty good damage, so I'm like, as long as we don't make any mistakes, should be okay. This pull doesn't really do anything. Just avoid the balls that the Ascendant puts on. These crushers we've seen before, they put that healing stack on them, but sometimes they jump around and they just drop your stacks for you, so you don't really need to worry about that. This Umbral Weave, just dodge the balls, stand in little corners. It's a pretty easy dodge, just 2-step dodge, easy collapse. So let's go ahead and we'll jump down this well. So there's a couple things that you want to know about this this bottom area right here. So these civilians, you pretty much never want to pull this first pack with any of the big stone guys. So we'll Bark Skin real quick. We'll use a French's Regen to top ourselves off. We'll get these crushers, and I actually end up body pulling the rest of these civilians. So I'm like, you know what, whatever. We'll do a pad pull. Screw it. So we'll do all these civilians. These doesn't matter if they're pulled with these crushers. It really doesn't matter. I throw down an Ursul's as well to make sure that those civilians are maybe dropping their little circles, whatever, in more of a concise manner. Once all of those are dead, then we can go into get this corrupting or consuming void stone. All these civilians, when they die near the void stone, will buff its damage. As you can see, it doesn't have any stacks, but he just has 15 stacks. So these things will hurt really, really hard if you were to kill all of those initial civilians with these void stones. So definitely make sure you're not giving these guys too many stacks. They will just start wiping your group, especially if your healer is not ready for it. So I pop Nature's Vigil here thinking that that is the AoE, and it's actually not. So whoops, that one's just on me. It is what it is. But we kind of drop low there, which is a lot. And then Unleash Darkness is the cast that will do a ton of damage. As you can see, it's ticking our group for quite a bit. Just about 40% of our health, something like that. So still doable if you end up getting civilians, but I like to kill all the civilians from that initial pull before I get any of these void homies. And since we have no void homie in this pull, we can just focus this Ascendant, just make sure we get stops on her. These Crushers really don't do anything to me as a tank. We can just get some good AoE, good old-fashioned blasting on this pull. Whole group just doing a ton of damage, making sure to drop these circles, just kind of moving around, in a sort of, what is that, clockwise? It is clockwise manner, doing some good damn. And this pull should go down without too much difficulty. It doesn't really do anything. It's like one kick every 7 seconds or whatever. Move over here. We'll do the same thing. Kill this Ascendant. I thought about kind of chaining this pull into the one to my left here, but figured, I was like, we have 9 minutes and 40 seconds left. Should be more than fine. I'll let the rogue stealth. I'll let him reset. No big deal. Not a big time waster. Nothing like that. And again, we're going to pop bark skin on pull, pop that lunar beam, use renew to top ourselves off, renewal to top ourselves off, and we are all good. And I try and knock all the civilians back to just see what the range is like on that consumption, but he still ends up getting 12 stacks, so I don't think there's a way to really get around that. These void stones are just going to get that. So I see void extraction come out again, and I'm like, okay, that's not the scary cast. So we'll save that for Unleashed Darkness. And I think Nature's Vigil will come out here in a second, but maybe I'm opting to save it for the next pull. I don't know. Maybe next dungeon even. Who's to say? So just staying out of circles here. I kind of move these mobs into a bad position, not letting my melee get too much cleave here. And yeah, these Crushers are here. I'm at 20 stacks. I'm limit testing, and I'm kind of running away trying to drop my stacks, and I'm just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. So then I just look at them, and I'm like, how am I staying at full HP with 40% reduced healing? Yeah, could have chained these Crushers into the last pull, but again, trying to let the rogue stealth, and again, we're in no rush. Just making sure those stacks drop, making sure that I'm going to this pull nice and healthy, popping bark skin on pull as usual. We'll make sure to kick these void bolts on the Ascendant. The civilians will obviously go down, and this void stone is going to get buffed. So we'll be on the lookout for that big void stone cast. He'll do his consume here in a second if he hasn't already. There we go, void extraction. So he's going to get his stacks from the nearby corpses and stuff. And then coming up here, I actually do pop my Nature's Vigil on the wrong mechanic again, so I'm just an idiot. It's okay. I never claimed that this would be a perfect run. It is what it is. So we're gonna finish off this, and we're gonna go to the boss here in a second. And our monk is absolutely MVPing. He's just healing through this like a champ. 22 stacks. As you can see, it's hitting for a good 40% of our health at least. More like 43 for the priest. I'm looking over to my left, making sure that someone is not dying, and I just ping where I'm going to stand as the tank, rebuff, and we will get into it. So with this boss, there's really not a whole lot to it, especially on tank. You just want to make sure that you have some kind of defensive for these waves, and making sure that you're putting them in a consistent spot. So I'm just pinging that I'm right here. I want nobody to stand behind me. The monk gets that debuff. We'll start dropping the pools towards the back of the room, and we will have the rogue on the left-hand side. The hunter should be going over to the right-hand side over there. As you can see, he's standing on that crystal, and the monk or the shadow priest is going to get the middle crystal. You just have to drag those blue circles onto the crystals. Make sure you shatter all three, And then once you break the shield, the Griffin will come down, chuck a hammer at the Voidstone monstrosity, and you just blast. I do end up using actually Iron Fur too much. I should have spent my rage on Maul here. So that's just kind of my bad. It's just force of habit. But we get a ton of damage on this boss. We absolutely blast him during this phase, and this is without Lust as well. So the next tank buster is going to come in. I pop my Bark Skin, make sure I have a Frenzied Regen. Hunter calls that he is going to Lust on the next shield break, so we know we have that coming. I don't think the Rogue is going to have too much damage because it seems like he popped his load on the first, the first break, but that's okay. We're going to get 3 breaks, more than likely, maybe even 4, is what I'm thinking at this point. And I'm looking over at the clock. We have 5.5 minutes on the clock, so as long as we don't die, we are in really, really good shape. We broke the shield incredibly quickly, break all the crystals like before. The Griffin comes down, chucks the hammer at him. He's stunned, taking a ton of damage, and we Lust. We don't actually get the best burn here. Boss loses a ton of HP, obviously, because he's taking tons of damage, and this is where I start using Maul. I don't even have this bound on high keys, too, because I just, whatever, so I'm just kind of clicking it. Don't really need to move or anything like that. Don't judge me. It's okay. So get him down to about 32%. We still have Lust going, so this next shield is going to go down pretty quickly as well. Pop in the Lunar Beam to get some extra damage there and be survivable. And then we'll pop Incarn, get that extra bonus health, French regen up to full HP. And as you can see, this is not a super threatening key as a tank. We're just going to Thrash and Maul and Iron Fur and be chilling. So pop in Bark Skin right before this hits. Going to soak that up easily. Only does about 50% of my health. And as you can see, we break the shield, we break all the crystals, we break all 3, having those blue orbs on. And again, we'll get the Griffin to chuck the hammer at the boss, and we should get the final burn here and taking out the boss. This was my first 13 of the season. Didn't even know if this would go well, and this worked really, really well with Pugs. So I hope you guys learned something. Let me know which keys or what classes you guys want to see next. I do have a few tanks that I want to start uploading with, but yeah, beautiful run. Leave a comment, like the video if you liked it, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.